This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues.
This is Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree, episode 60. How do I know if my teen really is a nice kid at school?
Cheree, the inspiration for this episode came because I had some parent-teacher conferences this week for my boy, and I just feel like you're holding your breath as a parent sometimes to know, okay, what are they really like in class? Like, I think I have an idea, but what are they really like? And getting that feedback, right, from their teacher. And so I've wondered that as a parent myself of, okay, I think my child walks on water. I think they're so kind. I think they're the bee's knees. But are they really kind at school? And are they really somebody that's reaching out to other people, right? I feel like that's on our mind as parents. So I wanted to give some kind of indicators to look for to kind of know if, okay, my teen, appears that they're doing really well in school and that people actually really do like them.
Isn't that true? Like, we just want our kids to be the nice kids. I think sometimes for me, when my kids were growing up, that mattered more to me than grades or any other accomplishment. And then I would find things out sometimes and I would just want to just shrink.
And die. Yeah. And guess what? That's even the best. I'm so glad you brought that up because even our best, most amazing kids are going to have like a friend that they're like, yeah, I really didn't include them the way that I should have. I wasn't nice to this person, right?
Exactly.
Every one of us. I can share a million of my stories like that. So,
Same, same, same.
that can happen because we're human. But I agree with you. We want our kid to be this knight in shining armor. So how do I get a pulse of like, okay, are they really nice at school? Well, the first thing is, do you notice if other kids gravitate towards them? And not so much as in like, oh, my kid is just so popular, but if you run into a random friend at the grocery store and if they're like, hey, Johnny, how are you doing? Right? Those kind of things are really great indicators because if your kid is not nice or very friendly at school, they're going to pretend that they don't see each other or they're not going to really have a warm welcome for each other. And I get there's personality factors in there too, but as you bump into your teen's social circle out in the real world, how do they respond? Do they say hi? Do they catch their attention? Does your child reach out? That's just like one kind of layer of going, oh, okay, yeah, I do think that they're making some nice impressions at school.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, sometimes that's personality. It's more of like an insecurity than a bully issue. But I think you can tell so much by body language, right?
Hmm.
Even if no words are spoken, what is the body language of your child when they see someone or that child sees yours? So sometimes no words speak louder than words.
Yes. And sometimes youth that are a little bit, I guess a word might be rude at school or very exclusive at school. Um, they don't want, like, they've got their circle of friends and they don't want to expand that, right? And so if you're noticing, like, oh, you kind of gave that person the cold shoulder or like those kind of things, that's like worth a conversation of saying, hey, that was your friend at school. You didn't even say hi, you know? Just little things like that.
Let's talk about this. I noticed this, or even I noticed you haven't been hanging around, so and so that's in our neighborhood, or let's talk about that because then you can see it both ways. Like, is your child being unkind or is that child being unkind? And I think it's just good to open that conversation that way.
Well, and it can fully go both ways, right? So that's why we want to keep it open and neutral.
Love
And
it.
then I would say the second one that I have for you is my biggest indicator is the thing, like, sure, you were saying, I cared more about this than grades. Like, I care more about this than like anything. And that's, are my kids kind to the kids on the fringe? And what I mean by the fringe is when you think of social circles and who's popular, who's not, there's always a group of kids that are just a little bit weird, right? They're not fully so weird or have disabilities that it's very obvious, But they're going to do weird things. Maybe they're a little bit too loud. Maybe they don't pick up on social cues. Maybe they don't talk at all, right? Like there's just certain things about them, or maybe they're not very friendly, right? And can my youth be kind to them? They don't have to be best friends with them, but can my youth say hi or, if they're sitting by them at church, it's not a big deal, right? That is a massive indicator that your youth has got a really good handle on kindness because I feel so strongly, all of us, every one of us, even the ones of us that we'd say, you're not a nice human being. We know how to be nice to somebody with obvious disabilities, right? Because if we weren't, society as a whole, we really shun that and we say, that's not okay, which is awesome. And we should keep that up. But it's those kids that are just like a little bit weird, who only talk about one thing, who don't fit into that social group, but they're also not super out there that teens tend to ostracize. And so if you can notice and be kind, like your youth can, say hi to them or, they at least have a casual friendship, that is a huge, huge green flag to me.
I agree. And I think so much of that starts, as you're talking about, that starts in our home, about how we talk about other people and
Yes.
how, we as parents model that, or how, even when our teen starts talking about someone who's weird or abnormal or that's, whatever, of what how we carry on that conversation with our teens. And, if we laugh with them or if we challenge them or, I think it's just really important for our teens to hear what we think about those who are, out look like outcasts or on the fringe or,
Mhm.
and how we talk about them and what we do with adults that are like that. I just think so much of that starts right in our home.
Absolutely. Like this is going to come from modeling. And I think every adult's had the experience of like you're working with somebody and the way that we talk about them, is it just, oh, they're the worst? Or is it, yeah, no, they can be a little prickly pear, but that's okay. They're really good at their job, right? Or like the way that we frame people that are outside the social norm makes a huge difference for our youth because that's how they're going to frame it. And sometimes our youth can feel like who they associate with becomes like a reflector on them. And if we help them model that as well, being like, no, I can have lots of different friends, I can be kind to everybody, and it also doesn't really have to have a reflection on who I am. Like, I can be best friends with somebody that loves Pokemon, and I don't have to like it, right? Just silly examples like that.
But those are such good examples, and I do think our teens need that reassurance that that their self-worth and their self-confidence isn't going to be ruined by being kind to someone who doesn't run in their circle. Like I think they're so
Mhm.
afraid of being rejected by then they will be rejected by their peers or they won't fit in if they're kind. And I think we just need to give them a lot of reassurance that it isn't going to damage their
Their like
their
reputation.
reputation.
Yes, is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, yeah, their reputation.
Well, and just, kind of a last thought on this, because I get this is kind of a tricky science as a parent of like, is my youth really, doing what they're supposed to? And are they representing their family name well? All those kind of things. Um, I really like to watch my youth interact with friends that are not best friends, friends that maybe they just see at church, friends that they maybe just see in neighborhood situations, or friends cousins that they only see once a year, right? That is a really great indicator of how do they treat the average person in the halls because we're all nice to our best friends, right? Or we wouldn't have friends. But how are they interacting? And if I see some things that are amiss or a little bit of meanness sneaking in, as a mom, that's where I'm going to want to focus. That's where I'm going to want to go and, hey, I noticed you guys were kind of excluding your cousin over here. Like, that's not okay, right? Tell me what was going on. All those kind of things to help guide them to realize, hey, we have a standard of kindness in our home and it's high. And it's high because most people are okay with being mean to kids on the fringe, but not in our home.
Yeah, I love that. As you were talking, I was thinking about how um, probably all of us adults have a little regret of how we treated someone in the past.
Mhm.
Like I know I have a few, unfortunately, where I wish I could go back and change it. And I think sometimes that's okay to talk to your kids about that and say, hey, you know what? This is what this is an experience I had, and I really regret how I showed up. And I was so worried about fitting in that I did this. And I really regret that. If I could go back, this is what I would do. And I think sometimes just having our kids hear that is helpful to them because they start to think in terms of, oh, I don't want to have any regrets. Or, I want to do things differently. I don't know. I just think it's always so good to have open conversations with our kids about these very things.
Well, and sharing that personal experience takes it from being a lecture
Mm,
to let me just tell you the story, and then you take it from there, right? And I love that form of teaching.
yes, so good. So good.
Okay, well, parents, we wish you the best of luck. We hope that you only find out wonderful things about your youth, and we cannot wait to see you in our next episode. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.